All right, everybody, we have to talk because today I got slammed with emails and questions regarding what's happening in the debt market, and we are going to cover that. I am not saying it is, well, hold on a minute. Let's start off with the basics. So this is my post-market wrap-up on this Friday, the 13th, 2019. What did stocks do today? Nothing. The Dow Jones Industrial Average had a fractional gain. We had small losses on the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. Again, the story is the bond market. And, you know, let me just say this. I am happy and proud to hear all of you paying attention to the debt market, because this is getting interesting. There's no doubt about it. And it's getting a huge amount of coverage on the mainstream financial channels. Let's have a look at the debt market so we can gain a perspective as to what's going on here. All right, closing bell literally just went off here. We're going to look at the 2 forward, okay? Now you see all that green? All right, the whole curve is coming up. Now look at the spread. Look at the 2-year, 1.80. Look at the 10. We have 10-year, 1.90. We got 10 basis point spread there. What does this mean? Basically, there is a big player out here dumping bonds, dumping them rapidly. Now, I would not call this an uncontrolled sell-off yet. And again, going back to all of you, the question to me all day was, hey, Greg, is this the sell-off you've been talking about for years, the uncontrolled sell-off? I'm not convinced that's what we're seeing here just yet. Now, let's again back up. Do you remember last week we started to see bonds sell off? I told you what was likely building up. One of 2 things were going to happen. Cash was either going to go into the stock market or back into the debt market. Well, with regard to these markets, we've had like 7 days of gains in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So, to me, I'm not seeing anything here yet. So the fact that, you know, the stocks didn't do anything today, I mean, it doesn't get me rattled at all. You know, yeah, sure, stocks opened higher, pretty much started sliding right at the open. But again, the bond market, although it's tremendous, it's the biggest thing out there, and there is a big player selling debt. There's no doubt about it. I don't see that uncontrolled sell-off yet. If this continues, okay, and we see rates continue to rise at this pace, it's time to run for the hills. That's the truth, because that's the big one here. When we get a sell-off in the debt market, an uncontrolled sell-off, we are going to see a rapid. This is an interesting sell-off causing rates to go up, but at a much greater pace. In my view, when we see that big sell-off in the debt market, rates are going to rise to at a shocking pace. That's the uncontrolled sell-off, which is going to rock the stock market like you have no idea. Now, let's back up a little further here. We know for a fact that the Federal Reserve has now started QE. Quantitative easing is in full effect. They're buying the debt. Obviously, they're not buying enough of it because there's a bigger player out here. I think we all know who it is, dumping the debt. I think China is playing both sides of the aisle here. They're pretending to be the friend of the president here. At the same time, they're dumping debt. Now, there's a lot of people that are going to say, hey, you know, China's not going to dump debt because it's going to hurt them. Really? Honestly, do you really think that's the case here? No, it's not the case here at all. China is the largest holder of U.S. debt and the only one that I can imagine right now that would be doing something like this, dumping debt. Now, let's keep this in mind too. We know for a fact we're going to get rate cuts. A series of rate cuts are coming. Quantitative easing is already in effect. My phone's talking to me. To a much greater degree than we have now. Dollar intervention, dollar devaluation. The dollar did take a little hit today. Did you see what they did to silver today? It got hammered. Gold took a hit. Cryptocurrencies, didn't do too much. I think they fell a little bit. Nothing major going on there. But this is the game they play. Good. Let them continue to play that game. So, understanding that right now, again, may be a setup like we just witnessed. We saw cash leave the debt market, made its way into the stock market. We had a rally like for a week. Today's little dip in the market with bonds selling off may just be another step for stocks to move up. I still believe we're going to get record highs again very soon. People, I don't know another way to put it. You have to understand that we have a rigged market. It's being rigged from the highest level of governments. It started in December, last December, when Steve Mnuchin went to the same banks, the same 6 banks that run the Fed, and had them start buying everything. The Federal Reserve also has a trading desk. Believe me, they're not done. And the president calling for 0 to negative rates here in the United States is massively bullish for the stock market. So what we're seeing now, in my opinion, right now, and I'll let you know next week, is not an uncontrolled sell-off. An uncontrolled sell-off in the bond market would have caused a 1,000-point drop in the Dow Jones Industrial Average today. We finished positive. So I want all of you to sit back and calm down. Again, I got hammered today. I couldn't even get to all of my emails. It was impossible. So let's recap what happened here. Sell-off in the bond market is interesting, all right? It is not an uncontrolled sell-off. If it were, stocks would have got walloped. Didn't happen. Right now, there is a big player dumping U.S. debt. Okay, I think we have an idea of who this is. Will it continue? I'm not really sure how it's going to play out. I'll be honest with you. But this may just be an avenue for cash to move into the stock market once it is announced rate cuts are coming, a new round of quantitative easing, dollar devaluation, all the things you would expect to see in an economic meltdown is going to happen, even though Don the Con says our economy is booming. We would not be getting rate cuts. We would not be getting quantitative easing, which is going on right now. Okay? The president would not be calling for dollar intervention, his words, or dollar devaluation. If our economy was really booming, I think this makes sense to all of you. It is a lie of epic proportions. But again, that's the narrative. He wants to be reelected. He thinks you're dumb. He's playing on that fact. You are not dumb. At least those of you that are writing to me about the debt market because you're watching what's going on. And it is interesting. No doubt about it. So, look. We're going to need to keep our eye on it right now, but if we understand what's about to happen, remember I told you world central banks were going to go nuclear like a few months ago? That's exactly what has happened, and it's going to get much, much worse. The Federal Reserve has already backdoor gone nuclear by initiating quantitative easing. They are buying the debt. Obviously, they're not buying it fast enough because there's a big player dumping it, causing the yield curve to rise like this. So I am more than certain that right now there are certain people, for example, the president, who's very upset at seeing what's happening to the yield curve. He doesn't like rates higher. He wants rates lower. Rates are going higher on their own. Why? Because there's a big player out here dumping a lot of U.S. debt. But in my view, what's going to happen here is the Federal Reserve is going to put their foot to the floor like you cannot believe. And what is their goal? You know it. To become the lender and buyer of last resort. It's the goal of every single world central bank. And I mean, just to name two, you got Mario Draghi over here and you got President Trump on the other side, both asking their central bank to do the same thing. Do you think that's a coincidence here? Forcing the middle class to subsidize the stock market, being robbed blind, being pushed into a negative rate environment, allowing the banks to actually reach into your account and pull cash out? This is what's going to happen here. There's no doubt about it. But right now, again, if you look at what's being called for, zero, negative rates, dollar devaluation, quantitative easing right out of the mouth of the president, which has actually started to happen. It's got no coverage at all. But if you go to the Federal Reserve's own website and you see they are buying debt, this is quantitative easing. But again, they're not buying enough because someone out here is selling in a big way. But it's not an uncontrolled sell-off. If it were, again, the Dow would have dropped 1,000 points today. Now, they're going to play their games here, it looks like, just gauging from gold, especially silver today. Good. This is a major buying opportunity in light in that they're going to, again, go absolutely nuclear. That's what the Fed's going to do. It's their end game. It's their end goal. It's the goal of every single world central bank that are run by the same entities to become the lenders and buyers of last resort, to not just have slave nations, but slave individuals too, slaves to debt. That's all they issue is debt. The more debt world central banks issue, every day they're allowed to do this, every day a president of a country, no matter who it is, asks their central bank to add more debt to the bubble that we are in, they get stronger. They do not get weaker. It's polar opposite of what most people think, that they just don't understand central banking. All right, it's a very simple concept, but it's very hard to get into people's heads. Anyway, with that said, I really hope this has made sense to you. Moving forward, what you can expect to happen here. Next week is going to be absolutely tremendous. I will do a look ahead video, more than likely Sunday, and we'll talk about how things are unfolding over the weekend. But again, bravo to all of you that are watching the debt market, and to those of you that wrote to me about, Greg, what's going on, and to those of you I have not written back to, I can't keep up with the emails that I get. So if I don't write back to you, please forgive me. But this guy loves all of you. Now, are you ready? It's Friday. I'm going to leave you off with what I always say. Love each other, care about each other, and be charitable, because that's really all that matters. We need each other, especially in this twisted, fairy tale, fake environment that is about to get monumentally worse. And so are the level of lying. It's gonna hit a fever pitch. Again, people, please share this video. This guy loves you. I am out of here.